On today's episode, we'll talk about using color filters on your black and white camera. There's a new photo Q&A video live stream. Find out why I don't set the date and time on my cameras anymore. And today's guest, Sina Farhat, tells us about how he saves a ton of money rolling his own film. This episode is brought to you by Discover the Top Floor, a place to learn photography, a place to photograph amazing destinations together with like-minded people from all over the world. We have finalized the Ethiopia tour in January 2016, which is open for registration now. Go to tfttf.com/Ethiopia 2016. This is Tips from the Top Floor, episode 677 for Thursday, April the 2nd, 2015.
Tips from the top. From the top floor, tips from the top, alright, from the top floor.
Hi, Chris. This is Andy from Utah over here in the States. I got kind of an interesting question for you. I came from the film days back when I was shooting my old ZXL Pentax, and I'm kind of moving over to the digital age. Now got an A7 from Sony, and I wanted to try just different things with it that I hadn't been able to do with film in the past. And I know that there's one way that you can shoot color photograph by using, your three primary color gels while having the camera in a black and white mode or converting it to black and white later, and then using each one of those photos as a different color channel for the original photo. And I've did this, and the photos don't really seem to look any different than if I would have just taken a colored photo with the camera by normally. But I was curious if you knew anything about any tricks to do this, or what it would actually be used for. I thought it was just kind of a neat idea to try, but I don't know what it would exactly be used for. Well, anyway, you might know. You're good at this stuff. So thank you so much for all the enjoyment in your podcast, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. This is an interesting technique. So, okay, the thing you were trying to do and sort of kind of failed is actually one of the oldest techniques of taking color pictures ever. That's the first color pictures were actually taken this way. So what you do is you put a black, and this is obviously in the film days, you put a black and white film in your camera, and now you shoot 3 pictures from the same spot with 3 color gels in front of it. So you would take one gel that only lets blue light through, and then you would take the second picture with a gel that lets red light through, and then the third one with green light. And then you would project the 3 of them in a projector, and the 3 primary colors you would then project onto a wall on top of each other, like they have to register with each other. And this way you can recreate that color picture. And again, the earliest color pictures were exactly done this way. Now, the problem is if you try to convert this into or adapt this to a digital workflow, then here's your camera actually shooting a color picture. Even if you set the camera to black and white, the sensor in the camera is a color sensor, and it will always take a color picture and then later convert into black and white. And what happens is if you use a color gel in front of that sensor, what you're pretty much doing is you are changing the white balance of that picture. And now your camera's automatic white balance will try its best to kind of set the white balance to something that corrects for the color cast that it all of a sudden sees. And this way you're kind of shooting with a moving target. You could, of course, clamp down the color, the white balance and use a fixed white balance, but I haven't really tried that with a digital camera. But again, this is a technique that actually nowadays, this is exactly what a digital color picture gets taken by. You have a sensor in front of, you have a sensor that collects the light, and the sensor has individual pixels, and it has what's called a Bayer array, which is an array of red, green, and blue color filters that sit in front of that array of pixels. So every pixel has its little personal filter, and there are red ones, green ones, and blue ones, and that's how in the end this picture is constructed again into like a proper picture. So we're doing the same that the earliest color photographers have done. We split it in different colors and then put it back together. Now, question is, how can we use that in a creative way? And I think, to be honest, the best way to do this is really to get an old SLR, get a roll of black and white film, and then start experimenting with color filters. Actually, black and white film photographers do that still. If you want to create a black and white shot with a really dramatic dark sky with lots of contrast between the blue of the sky and the white of the clouds, and kind of an Ansel Adams look where the blue sky is almost black, where you really have strong contrast in the sky, that's what you get when you use a red filter in front of your lens and a black and white film. You can have like an orange or a yellow filter to have a bit less of that effect, but still increase the contrast. Or if you shoot nature, if you shoot landscape with lots of green, using a green filter will bring out the greens and make everything else a bit darker. So the color of the filter then translates into things being brighter or darker, and that's kind of a really exciting way to shoot black and white by using filters. Hey, hello, my name is Chris Marquardt. This is Tips from the Top Floor, the longest running photography show on the web. And today I'm going to talk to Sina Farhat again about some unusual ways to do analog photography. This time we want to talk about bulk loading. But before we do that, let me briefly talk about the Viewfinder Villa housewarming party that we had last weekend. The Viewfinder Villa, which is the place where we've been living now since early December. And I mean, it was amazing. It was great. We had probably around 40 people here. Everyone brought something. We had good drinks and beer and wine, and it was just a very good mood. Everyone it was all about photography. So that was the other good thing. Everyone brought their cameras, and I had organized a lot of continuous light. I will talk about continuous light in one of the next episodes for sure, because it's something I really had a change of mind about when it comes to artificial lighting. And the one thing I decided was to live stream this event. Now, luckily, just over the last weeks, two things have come up that kind of make this really easy from an iPhone or from an iPad. And one is Meerkat. And then the other one is the one that's a bit more, the one that belongs to Twitter, which is called Periscope. And I'm still not sure which one I want to use more. Probably both. I don't know. But we used Periscope and put this on an iPad and live streamed the entire party, which took like 5 to 6 hours. And I have a stand here that I can put the iPad on, so an iPad stand that hooks up to a microphone stand. And we had it up on that, and it was just standing in the corner, and then every now and then someone would grab the iPad and give a tour of the house, walk around a bit with it, and explain a few things. I did, I think, 2 Viewfinder Villa tours. And so it's one of these things that works really well. I mean, it streams quite reliably, and then there can be almost as many people as you like to check in. Just the other day, it was yesterday. Yesterday I saw a live stream by John Gruber, for example, who just started this thing, and a couple of minutes later he had 1,400 people watching him. And it worked pretty flawlessly. So this is a pretty good medium. This is a pretty interesting development going on there. And what I've found is that I've seen others do little live streams. So I decided today, before dinner, to do a little live stream, just 15 minutes. That was all the time I had. So I thought, hey, let me use those 15 minutes and do a 15-minute photo Q&A. And there were somewhere between 10 and 20 people switching in on short notice. The announcement, I set it up so that whenever I start a broadcast on Periscope, it tweets on my Twitter stream. So those who followed my Twitter stream could see that. It was also 9:30-ish, 9:40-ish in the morning in the Pacific time zone. So Saturday morning, I don't know how early you guys get up, but it was okay. Should have worked for most people, and it was this quick ad hoc ask me anything photography thing, and it did work, and it was amazing because the questions. Okay, let me think back. What kind of questions do I remember? The one was what I think about. Which would be my favorite mirrorless camera? And I've tried them all, and my answer was I still haven't decided. I'm not sure I actually can do mirrorless because I still need this immediacy of the mirror, of the actual live optical path. That's what I am, a DSLR guy, and I'm still not convinced that I can really work well with an electronic viewfinder. So that was one answer. The other was what kind of a budget tripod I would recommend, which I don't really have any specific ones, but in general, I mean, what you want to look for in a tripod is stability from the bottom to the top. And there are so many points of connection that can be unstable that any tripod, I think, can be a decent tripod. But you have the point between the tripod and the ground, and if that's not stable, then the tripod isn't any good. Then you have between the individual segments of the legs that need to be where you need to be able to tighten them down, so those are stable. And then there's a tripod head usually, even though budget tripods sometimes come with a built-in one. But if there's a separate head, there needs to be a good connection between the tripod and the tripod head, so that one needs to be stable. And then the tripod head usually has a tripod plate, and that connection needs to be tight. And then you have a tripod plate to camera connection, and that one needs to be tight as well. So there are lots of points, and depending on the tripod, you might have 7, 8, or 9 different points from the top, from the camera to the bottom where it touches the ground, where you can have instabilities. And as long as the tripod is capable of tightening those connections, you shouldn't have any problems. Oh, of course, having that said, a tripod is always as stable as the relation between its size and the size of the camera is. I mean, you can't use a teeny weeny tiny tripod and put a big heavy DSLR on it with a big telephoto lens. It's just not going to work because that's too heavy and the tripod will have problems. So it has to be in a good relation with the size of the camera, of course. But then I have also found that I could use tripods that were not made for the size camera that I put on them by not extending them to their fullest capability. So just leaving in some of the leg extensions, like not extending them all the way, but leaving them in, and then setting that tripod up on a higher surface, like on a rock or on a table, and not extending the middle column. Even with cheap tripods, that can give you quite some stability. So I wouldn't rule out using a budget tripod. I do have budget tripods here. Some of them I use for lights that stand on my desk, so there is no real issue with stability. But to stabilize a camera, those are kind of the factors that I thought were interesting. Another one that came up in the little live stream was the what app I use to shoot photos on an iPhone. And I actually really mostly 99.9% of the time I use the built-in camera app. That's decent enough. And yes, I know it cannot set up everything. Like you don't have control over the white balance, but you do have control over exposure. If you tap on something to set the focus, you will see the little sun icon to the right of it, little box with a yellow sun icon. And if you drag that up and down, that changes the exposure. So you can actually do quite a good job if you want to lock down the focus and the exposure. Just keep it pressed, touch wherever you want to have the focus and the exposure set, and hold that for a couple of seconds, and it will lock the autofocus and the auto exposure. And then you can still change the exposure by sliding up and down the little sun icon. So you can have that completely locked down, and that can help you. And yes, I know, I know there are apps out there that let you do much more, that let you set the white balance and the exposure and the aperture and stuff on an iPhone or an iPad. But that's usually not the way I use these cameras. For me, it's really way more important that I have access to that camera as fast as I can. And with the built-in iPhone camera, it's just swipe up on the home screen and there's the camera. So that's the quickest way to access the camera, and that's the app that I will typically use there. So those were some of the key questions on today's little Periscope live stream. And again, if you want to see one of those, I won't plan them or schedule them. I'll just do them ad hoc whenever I have some time. But I think I'll do those little Ask Me Photo questions things, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Because it's cool, it's wonderful. It's this is a level of interaction that I love and that I haven't had that I haven't had outside of workshops. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to throw questions at me or tell me things. And if you're not brave enough to leave a message here for Tips from the Top Floor, if you're not brave enough to go to tipsfromthetopfloor.com and click the orange bar and speak into your microphone, then maybe typing out a question on a Periscope live stream might be an option. And by the way, I'm also trying to find out how to record them so I can maybe even publish the odd one. Let's see. This is just a brain fart for me right now. Trying this out, experimenting with a new medium, and quite enjoying it.
So listen, oh listen to every word I said. There's music playing in your head, pay attention.
Maybe you want your question to open the show. As you noticed, I have changed the show around a bit and start opening the episodes right in the beginning with a listener question, and yours could be the one on the next show. I can't tell you often enough how much I love hearing your voices here, and really doesn't really matter if it's a question or if you came across something funny in terms of photography. If you have some feedback for the show, it's really easy. Go to tfttf.com, click on the orange tab, and then just record something. And before you send it off, you get to listen to it again and then decide if you really want to send it off. So it's risk-free, completely risk-free. And if you prefer the good old telephone in the United States, just pick it up, dial 206-202-DSLR. That's 206-202-3757, and internationally +44 7005 805 742. I want to hear from you.
Gotta keep that music fit. So listen.
I would like to take a minute and thank Harry's. They sponsor this episode and I love their products. You know, for many of us, especially as guys, shaving is a pain. It sucks, it's uncomfortable, it causes nicks, cuts, razor burn, and razor blades today are outrageously expensive. Enter Harry's. Here's what they do. They make their own blades. Well, actually, they searched for the right place to make the blades for them, and they came across a German razor blade factory that they liked so much that they purchased the factory in Germany. It's actually a traditional 93-year-old traditional German business. And let me tell you, I've been using Harry's razors for almost 2 months now. That's some high-quality, high-performing German blades they've got there. Also, their business model is so efficient and pretty disruptive, to be honest. They can pretty much get this to you at factory direct pricing, which means you will pay a fraction of the drugstore costs of other blades. Also, and this is big for me, also no more pesky plexiglass cabinets to unlock. You know, the stuff that makes you kind of feel like a thief, having to wait for someone to unlock that for you. Not so with Harry's. And they're about half the price of the other big brand blades. And if you live in the United States or in Canada, they will ship for free to your front doorstep. Now, there's even a $5 discount for you on an already affordable product. The starter set is Without the discount, an amazing deal already. For $15, you get a razor, a moisturizing shave cream, and 3 razor blades. And I will tell you in a second how you can get $5 off of that. I mean, I've used their products now for about 2 months. Their razors are as good and as durable as the bigger brands that I used to shave with in the past. They have 5 blades like the bigger brands, you know. It's as thorough as it gets. And I love their shave cream too. And again, I looked it up. The razors are really about half the price at a great quality. I simply love that. And here's how you get the $5 discount. If you go to harrys.com now, they will give you $5 off if you type in my coupon code TOPFLOOR with your first purchase. That's harrys.com, HARRYS.com, and enter coupon code TOPFLOOR, one word, at checkout for $5 off and start shaving better today.
Down on that instrument.
Okay, so apparently I stirred up a little bit of controversy when I wrote a blog post about not setting the time on my camera. Now, the reason I wrote this blog post is because daylight savings time. No, it's daylight saving time. I looked it up. Daylight saving time. That just rolled around in Germany just a good week ago. So it's one of these things that happens at different times everywhere in the world. And I know the United States is like 3 weeks before Germany and messes up everything. But it just happened in Germany. And I used to tweet out some kind of a public service announcement. Hey guys, set the clocks on your cameras. And then I don't, and then I kept forgetting it myself. And when I travel, I keep forgetting it myself. And it's just a pain in the neck because you have to go around the house and set the clock on your microwave and then go outside and check the clock in your car because that doesn't set itself. And then your camera doesn't have a GPS built in or doesn't know any better, so you have to change that time, and then you have more than one camera, and then you have to change more than one cameras, and the fact is I just keep forgetting. So I looked into a workflow that I could do that was simple enough, and I came up with something that works really well for me, and that is what I call the reference picture method. So I take a picture of a clock on my smartphone, on my iPhone, while I am in that respective time zone. So what I have is then I have a picture that has EXIF data, the time when the camera thinks the picture was taken. And then in the picture, visually as the photo, I have a photo of the clock on that device that shows the actual time. So I know what time the photo was taken at, and it's not the EXIF time, it's the time on the photo. And then I can use a tool like Lightroom, for example, to just adjust a whole batch of pictures. So I take all the pictures of that vacation. I take the reference picture. I dial in that time. And I've written about this on Tips from the Top Floor. You can read up on that there. And that method works really well. Now, the reason I want to fix the time, usually I would say, but who cares what time the photo is? I'm not OCD in that respect, so I don't really care. And they will still be in chronological order, so why would I want to adjust the time? Well, there are 2 reasons that make that a valid point. The first is I have more than one camera with me. I actually have 3 cameras with me. I have my full frame DSLR. I have my crop DSLR, the small Canon Rebel SL1. And then I have my iPhone. So that's 3 cameras. And if I want to keep these pictures among the different cameras in chronological order, they better have the same timestamps, right? Or timestamps that are consistent with each other. That's the first one. And the second one is sometimes I have a camera. I take pictures while I have a geologger running, which is a little app on my smartphone that every minute or so logs the current location into a file. And then I can marry that data to my pictures, but they have to be on the same clock then. They have to be consistent in terms of the clock on the two different devices, on my smartphone and on my camera. So that's what I do. I take a reference picture and then I go in to Lightroom and say, hey, I select all the pictures. I select the reference picture with a main selection. Lightroom has the two different levels of selection. And then I go and change the time. And again, I will link in the show notes, I will link to that. If you go to tfttf.com/677, you can find that. And that works really well for me. So I've pretty much stopped setting the clock on my cameras because I forget anyway. And then obviously I knew this would everyone kind of has their own method of dealing with that. And one method is just set your camera to UTC. And that is, that won't change over time. And then all you need to know is the delta between UTC and the time zone that you were in, which works. But kind of, I like the reference method better because it's kind of straightforward, and I don't have to do any math, which I'm really bad at, especially when it's about times and dates. Time and date math is it's easy to get wrong, even for me. So the reference picture doesn't require any math to be done. And so that I wrote about that, and I'm happy that I did, because I was not aware that it's that controversial. But I think within minutes I got the first comment on that, and people sent me tweets about it, and I think I got something on Facebook. And so anyway, check that out on tfttf.com. Right under the entry for this episode, and the title is the date and time on my camera don't matter. Let me take a minute and thank our second sponsor. Lynda.com is for problem solvers, for the curious, for people who want to make things happen. Maybe you want to master Lightroom or Photoshop, or build a website for your photography, or learn negotiation tactics to interact better with your clients, or boost your creative skills. Go to lynda.com and feed your curious mind. They're an amazing online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. With a lynda.com membership, you can watch and learn from top experts who are passionate about teaching. You can stream thousands of video courses on demand and learn on your own schedule. Learn at your own pace. Courses are structured so you can watch them from start to finish or consume them in bite-sized pieces. You can take notes as you go and refer to them later. You can create and save playlists of courses you want to watch to customize your learning path, or share with friends, colleagues, and team members. And here are some of their new classes that I just had a quick look at. For example, they have a brand new Photoshop CC adjustment layer and blend mode workshop. That's actually something that has really helped me with kind of difficult illustration type of work. Here's one on retouching and restoring, which is great. And you know me, I'm an analog photographer. Here's even one on black and white darkroom printing techniques. Your lynda.com membership will give you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat fee. Whether you're looking to become an expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or you just want to learn something new, I want you to visit lynda.com/topfloor and sign up for your free 10-day trial. That's lynda.com/topfloor. And I thank them so much for their support. I have him back again, Mr. Analog, the man who does the most amazing DIY things with his analog photography. Sina Farhat from Sweden. Hello there.
Hello.
You have been here on the show before.
Yes,
and you
I
talked about digitizing negatives
yes.
to slides.
Yes, I was bored and one summer built my own setup and made it a professional setup.
You're easily bored. Apparently.
More or less.
Let's see what else you were bored with. What do you want to talk about today?
I mainly shoot digital for my job, and digital, as you know, means I have a 32 gigabyte card. I can shoot forever. There's
True.
no limitation. I also shoot analog, which means I have 36 frames to shoot, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you also know, if you go to your whatever the name of the German store is that sells film, it costs you, let's say, €7 for a roll of Ilford or a Kodak or whichever
Some
brand.
film is cheaper, but yes, you're right. The premium brands are a bit more expensive. Yeah.
And to be honest, even though I cannot deny it, I like the idea of having unlimited film or unlimited images.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
So what do you do there?
I buy myself a bulk setup where I buy my film in meters.
Mm-hmm.
And I roll it myself into a cartridge.
Okay.
And effectively, I have black and white film for about 4 years in my fridge now.
Okay. Let's go back to the you roll your own film.
Yes.
So where do you get the film from? The long reels of film.
I wrote an article and I mentioned Mako Direct,
Okay.
a German site that you know, and I think a lot of the analog enthusiasts know, because they have great prices and they ship everywhere.
Okay.
They have, let's see what I wrote. They have basically everything: Ilford, Fomapan, Rolei, Kodak, Polypon. Or like, no, not Polypon. Strike that. Okay, correction. They have Ilford, Fomapan, Rolei.
Okay.
They have several ISO types. They even have slides, if I'm not wrong. Basically, you can buy anything you want.
So these are bigger rolls of film that will not fit your camera.
Exactly.
So what do you do to make them fit your camera?
If you buy these three brands I mentioned, you either get 30 meters or 17 meters. And the good news about those is that they fit into a film loader.
They fit into what?
A bulk film loader.
A bulk film loader. Okay.
And to describe it visually, it's a piece of plastic that holds the 30-meter reel. You then use a empty cartridge and you roll it in daylight.
Okay, so a bulk film loader will allow you to do this anywhere you like.
Yeah. The film is protected into the plastic shell that is airtight. What is it called?
Light
tight. And all you do is open a hatch, put your cartridge, roll. You have a counter on the side of the film loader that says 24, 36, or whichever you want. You crank it until you get the frame amount, and you have your roll of film.
Okay, so where would I get a bulk film loader?
I would again say Mako.
Oh, they sell one. Okay.
I think so. I haven't specifically checked with Mako with the film loader, but I'm pretty sure they sell that too.
Okay. If it's not there, I guess eBay might be a good candidate for that.
Yeah. Or a friend that just doesn't want his, I guess.
Actually, they do. They have a Kaiser film loader, which is €95, not cheap. So that might be a roadblock for someone who's trying to save money. Actually, so is there any alternatives?
I got mine from a friend.
Okay.
Just ask. Hey, Bob, do you use your film loader? Can I have it, please?
But if you don't have a friend who has a film loader, is there any way to get to bulk load film without one of these fancy machines?
Yes. Now, here's the advanced part. We are working in pitch darkness.
Okay.
And you have to trust your fingers and your senses because you cannot see.
Okay.
And as you have mentioned to me in another episode, the best way to learn is to waste a roll of film and use it in daylight and in pitch darkness, so that you get the feeling for what does this side of film feel like? What does the other side of film feel like? How
do the mechanics go? I call this sacrificial film.
Yeah.
You pretty much sacrifice a cheap roll of film. It doesn't have to be the most expensive one. In that case, I would probably go for a roll of Lucky Film or something, which is I think a Chinese-made, really cheap film.
Yeah.
Still good, but by far not as costly as like something from other more premium manufacturers.
Exactly. Whichever film you want to waste, just waste it and practice until you are comfortable working in pitch darkness.
So you said to find out what different sides of film feel like. Why do you need that?
Now I think you know the names more correctly than I do, but the way my brain analyzes this, you have a less smooth matte side, which I call wow. What did I call it?
That's the film emulsion.
Exactly, and the other side I call the protective side. That is more smooth.
That's the film carrier. That's a plastic layer, pretty much.
Yeah. When you work in pitch darkness, it's very good to know which side is which. Because in color film, if you load it the wrong way, you get something called wow. My brain is now blanking on me. What was that?
You mean red
red
scale?
scale? Yes, red scale. While it is cool to have red scale film, it's not exactly the effect one might
Okay,
want.
so you mean if you roll it the wrong way, the light in your camera would go through the film from the wrong side.
Yeah. Again, if you like the whole artistic side, maybe that's for you. But for me, I like to have the correct side.
Okay.
And then there's the bigger part when it comes to loading in pitch darkness. You have to somehow decide what is 36 frames. How do you measure 36 frames when you can't see the film?
So this is without a bulk loader. This is with you just taking an empty roll of film and filling it with film in the dark. Okay.
Yes.
So how do you measure it?
I use my arm length. From the left to my right arm, I have around 1.65 meters, which is a 36 frame roll.
Okay. So if that is, if anyone tries to do that and that's your stretched out arm length, then you're fine. If you're not, then I guess you have to find something else in the dark to use as a reference.
Maybe a table with a piece of tape. Maybe.
Oh yeah, people can get creative there.
Yeah.
Sure. Important question now. Okay, we now know where to get bulk film, like film in larger quantities. We now know where to get a bulk loader or how to do it in the dark. But the little film canisters, where do you find those? Because you will need empty film canisters, right?
The easiest, again, is Mako. They sell 10 packs, 20 packs. Let's see, I wrote the name. It's called Empty Reusable Film Cartridge.
I'm just trying to find it here.
Mako should have 10 packs.
Somewhere. If you don't, oh yeah, here, Kaiser film cartridges, 5 pieces, 11.70 euros. But those are reusable, right?
Yes, they have a. You can open it on the top and easily remove your film in the dark. And
Okay, I see.
There's also one more trick, but this requires you some do-it-yourselfness. If you take a pre-made, professionally made cartridge, and in the darkness when you're going to develop the film, you save a little bit at the end. You can tape your bulk film on the end and reuse a already professionally made cassette or cartridge.
Oh, okay. So you pretty much unwind it through the slit and then just tape your new film to the end of the used cartridge, pretty much.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There is, however, one thing to notice. My automatic Canon camera, unless my automatic Canon camera default just pulls the film completely. It also
You mean when it's done, it rewinds it right
exactly.
all into the cartridge without letting any film stick out. Yeah.
However, there's a setting that says, give me one, what do you call it? Leave one bit left.
Okay.
And I have set that to my camera. Manual cameras, some rewind it completely, some leave you a bit. You have to really test it out to see whichever.
Okay. But that's just in case you want to use existing cartridges.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, that's interesting.
There's one big piece of caution when you're using a master reel. Be very careful that you put it in a stable spot, because in my case, I bought 152 meter cinefilm black and white ISO 50 film, and it's my master reel that's gonna hold me for about 4 years. I have to make sure it's in a really stable place when I carefully pull out my meters.
Oh, so you don't drop it?
Yeah. And before I even load the film into my cartridge, I have to make sure I put it back just in case something happens to my 36 frames.
I understand. You don't want to knock it off the table or something, so it unwinds and turns into spaghetti.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's better to sacrifice your 36 frames than to sacrifice your 152 meter reel.
Sounds good. Sounds amazing. Is there any place that people can read up on that?
Yes, I wrote a complete article. Oh, actually, before we go, there's one thing to mention.
Oh, sure.
I mentioned there's color film also. However, color film is, as I understood it, only cinefilm. That is cinema film.
Okay. But you can still get it in these 100-something meter reels.
Yes.
Okay.
Kodak has something called Kodak Vision.
All right.
And they sell it, I think, 60 meters or 122 meters. The thing is, the cinema industry has has a layer added to it called ramjet. It is a black layer that, if I understood it correct, protects the film for, I guess, against scratches, or something.
I've never heard of it, but sure.
Not many have. That's one of the downsides of going the alternative way. I wrote a piece on it on the article and a link to the Flickr group how to remove the ramjet, because you have to remove it before you can scan your pictures.
I see. So maybe someone from the film industry is listening and can shed some light on this. If you know something about it, post a comment here on this episode, tfttf.com/677.
Also, one last thing, black and white cinefilm has no ramjet. You can just shoot as you want.
And treat it like regular black and white film.
Yeah, just take your favorite black and white developer and go for it.
All right, sounds good. All right, Sina, thank you so much. Where can people read up on this?
As I said, I wrote a whole article on my site that is called SinaFarhat.se.
Cool.
If that doesn't make sense, Chris will add a link to his show notes.
I will do. Thank you so much for telling us about this. Very interesting. And glad to have you back anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
And that was it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Support the show on Patreon. Get rewards for your support. Find everything at tfttf.com/Patreon. And a big thank you to all the patrons who already support Tips from the Top Floor. Actually, it's time for a shout out to you guys. Thanks so much. The DIS Unplugged, Greg Darmbach, Doug, Princeton Photo Workshop, Robert Goshko, Mark Klaas, Mark Sinderson, Matt Armstead, Carmine Works, Martin Tosh, Tom Stewart. Oh, this list is getting longer and longer. Robert Gilroy, Casey Osterlein, I'm butchering names here, Raphael Kurchowski, Matt DeWater, Sakin Mieni, Michael Parker, Sina Farhat, Rick Conley, Scott, Julia Treiber, George, Kyle Nikosha, Michael Zimmerman, Peter Spradling, Simon Stiefel, Randall Mac Roberts, Bartek Bosky, and Aurora Lee. You are an amazing bunch of people. Thank you so much for supporting Tips from the Top Floor on Patreon. tfttf.com/Patreon. Music for the show by Jeff Smith. Natives of New Dawn and Hans-Peter Kagroyd. Publishing of the show, as usual, is done by Release Pixie, Matt Rafsitar Armstead. And here's yet another quote of the day from A Lesser Photographer by CJ Chilvers. Oh, and I think this one must actually be one of my favorite chapters. Artists thrive on constraints. The enemy of art is the absence of limitations. Orson Welles. Every new professional-grade camera aims to remove the photographer another step from the mechanical processes of the camera to focus on the image. This has the opposite effect. Creativity is always enhanced by a constraint. This is true in filmmaking, music, painting, writing, and even photography. How many times has one of your favorite bands, whose best album was produced in days using half-borrowed equipment, gone on to spend a year in the studio on their next album, only to produce a mediocre, at best, result? How many times has a talented filmmaker been given unlimited funds and technical possibilities, only produce a Jar Jar Binks? A lesser camera makes you think. Thought is better than automation in art. Automation leads to commoditization. Your art becomes easily replaceable, or worse, forgettable. The resurgence of film among younger photographers may well turn out to be just a fad, but the reason it makes sense to so many people is the feeling of enhanced creativity it fuels. If you load black and white film into your camera, your whole world becomes black and white until a new roll is loaded. That's a very useful constraint. If you carry a camera with a fixed lens, you must get close to your subjects. That may be the most beneficial of constraints. Constraints become a necessity because our brains seek the path of least resistance. Our brains crave the automation. It's less painful. The brain would love to produce safe, bland fluff. When we enforce constraint, we throw a boulder into the path of least resistance and force the brain to create a path less traveled. Your creativity is what makes your images unique. Don't stifle it for an easier workflow. Comfort is where art goes to die. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I love that. So, that was it. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Chris Marquardt. Follow me on Twitter at Chris Marquardt, Chris Marquardt. That's, by the way, also where you will find the odd Periscope reminder when I go online on video, live video streaming, and just answer some photo questions. I'm planning to do this at least once or twice or maybe 3 times a week from now on. You can leave a review on iTunes. That's still the best way for others to find the show if you recommend it to others. So review on iTunes is really what counts. Or go to tfttf.com/677 to find out more about this show. Until next time, go out and take amazing photos, and happy shooting. On today's episode